the debris is everywhere. We are not sure at this time how rescue personnel will be able to get on scene at all.
If you're just tuning in, East Rail train number 177 has derailed just outside Philadelphia, and we're bringing you live coverage from Skycam 4.
Yeah, that is appears to be a rescue ambulance, and there are more behind it I can see on the access road. I don't know how close they're going to be able to get, David. These are woods and trees. It's going to be a very difficult rescue effort.
Pack some of that off.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dubin. You're in the emergency room in the Philadelphia City Hospital. You're in a serious accident. Look at me. How are you feeling?
Okay.
Good. I'm gonna ask you some questions. Have you ever had any heart or asthma problems in the past?
No.
Kidney or renal problems?
No.
Any allergies? Where were you sitting on the train?
Against the window.
In the passenger car?
Yeah. Where are the other passengers?
Was your family traveling with you? Did you get up from your seat? Are you certain you were in the passenger car?
Yes. Why are you looking at me like that?
Your train derailed. Some kind of malfunction. They only found 2 people alive so far. You and this man. His skull was cracked open and most of his left side was crushed. And to answer your question, there are 2 reasons why I'm looking at you like this. One, because it seems in a few minutes that you will officially be the only survivor of this train wreck. And 2, because you didn't break one bone. You don't have a scratch on you.
Welcome, one and all, to Spaghetti Junction Podcast. My name is Gareth.
My name is Bruce.
And we talk about things we just don't know where they're going to go sometimes. Well, that was a little intro to... that was a scene from the movie Unbreakable with Bruce Willis. Very good movie. If you don't know it, please don't ask anybody else because they could spoil it for you within one sentence, which happened to me. So if you don't know about it, don't ask anybody. Just watch it. It's really, really good. A film by my favorite director, M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah, that's pretty much how it starts. There's this huge crash, and pretty much as it goes through, he's the only survivor. No broken bones, nothing like that. Which then opens the whole movie up. That scene kind of played itself out, but unfortunately not in a movie where if people die, they don't really die. This happened with the recent crash with Air India. And this was a few days ago. Where it took off from a city in India on its way to Gatwick in England. And about 30 seconds after it had taken off, it basically it went down. For some reason, it looked like when the plane was trying to rise up, lift as they normally do, it actually ended up going down, and it crashed into a hostel where there were nurses and nurses and doctors lived there. It was lunchtime, so there wasn't a lot there, but from my understanding, there was about 24 to 30 people died there from the actual crash from the actual plane going down. And I believe the whole plane in total was 246.
Sure.
That went down. It was a huge explosion because obviously the plane was just leaving, so it had enough fuel to get it from India all the way to the UK. So obviously, if something goes down with that amount of fuel, and there is a video which I'll show a little, which we will show a little bit later. This one survivor just walks out, hardly a scratch on him, hardly a scratch, and he walks out of it. And this is kind of what got us talking about it. What I was, when I mentioned it to Bruce, I was like, it sounds so much like it could have been from Unbreakable, from that kind of a character where this tragedy happens and he walks out with hardly a scratch. And that's kind of like, that's really the discussion that we're going to go to, as to just the sadness of it all. And, and just that question is like, okay, wow, one survivor I don't know yet if there were any bones broken, because I could see him limping out of there. But from what it looked like, there was hardly any scratch on him. How is that possible? And that's just the premise of, and we're just going to go around because we don't know where it's going to go. I don't know exactly where Bruce is going to go and vice versa. So settle in for what's going to be a very interesting discussion, I'm sure.
Yeah. He was a little injured. He had quite a bad gash on his face. I watched some of the interviews. They tried to interview him like straight after, and then obviously limping. No one's going to walk out of there completely unscathed. But
for the level of what it could have been.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if if there's some amazing plan for the rest of that guy's life he was spared, and the rest of I don't know. We don't know if he was like Gareth was. We were talking earlier. We don't know if he's hyper religious or if we just don't know. And it was very difficult for him to. He was completely in shock when you saw him. He's just walking completely dazed. I don't know how long it's going to take him to actually process everything.
No.
In the meantime, we turn to the other major news this evening, the new video of that horrific crash, an Air India passenger jet just moments after taking off from the airport in Western India, bound for London. Yes. The first ever crash of a Boeing 787 Dreamliner in the air for only 30 seconds. At least 246 people killed. And tonight, the incredible story here of that lone survivor, the miracle in seat 11A. Surveillance video showing the last moments of the flight about 30 seconds after liftoff, seeming to lose power. You can see the plane dropping in the sky, disappearing behind buildings, and then exploding into a massive fireball. 242 passengers and crew on board, the plane crashing into a medical college, destroying a dorm and killing several people on the ground as well. Firefighters and rescuers battling those flames, working to untangle the wreckage, trying to recover the bodies inside. The plane breaking up, the tail lodged right into a building. The black boxes are in that part of the plane. They're hoping they unlock some of this mystery. And tonight, what we're learning about that miracle survivor, the man sitting in seat 11A, you can see walking away from the crash, saying he has no idea how he survived this. ABC's chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, leading us off tonight from London's Gatwick Airport, where that plane was supposed to land.
Tonight, the chilling final moments of Flight AI 171. the London-bound Air India jet roaring down the runway. But immediately after takeoff, the plane struggling to climb, appearing to lose engine power, plunging into a residential neighborhood in Ahmedabad, India, exploding in a massive fireball about 30 seconds after takeoff. Video film from a nearby building showing the horror unfolding. The plane, loaded with jet fuel and 242 passengers and crew on board, headed to Gatwick Airport in London. Plumes of thick black smoke billowing from the crash site. Firefighters spraying water on the burning wreckage. The plane slamming into a medical college during lunchtime. You can see the abandoned meals on the tables. Shocking images showing the tail sticking out of a building next to a mangled landing gear. Debris scattered for blocks. At least 246 people killed, including several medical students on the ground, authorities say. And tonight, after police initially said there were no survivors on the plane, Air India making a stunning announcement. One person on board survived. Extraordinary video appears to show the sole survivor, Vishwas Ramesh, limping away minutes after the crash, smoke billowing in the background. He reportedly told local media he doesn't know how he made it out alive. His family here in Britain speaking out tonight, grateful Vishwas survived, but tragically his brother AJ still.
Yes.
So it really does play out like it's a scene from a movie. That's exactly the kind of news report that you'd expect in a Hollywood blockbuster.
Yeah.
Made even worse by the fact that he lost his son on that flight. So, and he walks out there alone. I don't know what he must be feeling. I was talking to Gareth before we started it, and I was talking about this whole thing that can happen, which is called survivor guilt, when it comes from someone who is like one of a few, or maybe the only survivor of some sort of tragedy that ends a lot of people's lives. And for that person, it's actually a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, where you now are sitting there questioning and wondering why you survived. Why did you deserve to survive? And why everyone else, surely there were better people than you in that situation that could have gone on to live much more fulfilling lives. Why me? That whole question of just why me?
Yeah.
And then adding to that, obviously, that he lost his son on that flight as well. I don't know if there are any sort of more recent interviews with him, because he really couldn't. He really couldn't put into words when they were trying to speak to him. And they were trying to speak to him in the ambulance right after the crash.
They did like a little interview with him at the hospital when he was, more, where he had been seen. So they did one there, but I couldn't really track it down.
Yeah, I think maybe something else that he would have to deal with. Although I think we saw that more in the clip from Unbreakable, so it might not be the same for this guy in real life. But if you can just imagine walking past the families of
I would
all
imagine be crazy.
I would imagine
that would have happened.
And having all these people look at you like, why did you survive? And my friends and family were taken, and you have to deal with those looks and that animosity. Yeah, it must be crazy. So, and maybe
I guess
maybe
my thoughts were that there were people looking, going like, there's something about this guy. He's the only survivor. I wonder if it'll be. So your point, I didn't even think about. And I'm thinking on maybe the other side, where some may see him as a deity. I don't know. Because in India, it's a very religious country. And it just made me wonder, like, if someone survives something like that and are not badly injured, Yeah, very much so. You will have decides like why him and not my daughter, but also like why him?
Yeah. You can definitely expect certain cultures, certain religions to deify, someone like that, even if it's a child or whatever, this so that could be a possibility.
But I mean, your point is good though. I haven't really thought about that to a sense where that would play on your mental health like incredibly if you feel that pressure, like why did you survive and not part of my family, or or like maybe someone might go, well, you lost one person, but I've lost 5, or I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, possibly even feelings of animosity towards his family from the other families.
I don't know.
Because I mean, his name's out there, so, and I'm sure people have gone.
Everybody knows who
people
he is.
have gone to the hospital just to to obviously try and think, oh flip, maybe the news reports are wrong. Maybe my loved one did survive or whatever. So I can imagine that he probably had to deal with a bit of the fact that there were other families there at the hospital. Because what happens when something like that happens? You rush to a hospital to try and find out if your loved ones in that situation possibly survived.
Absolutely. Now this is the seating of the plane where he was sat right on the emergency exit, like right next to it.
That's insane. I didn't realize he was next to an emergency exit as well.
Yep. He was next to the So that's exactly where he sat. And most of the Boeings, which is what the plane, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a Boeing. That is the seat layout. And it was the first time ever that make of plane has actually, had a crash. It's the first time ever.
Yeah.
But yes, he was on 11A. Interesting enough, whenever I fly, which is not much anymore, but when I flew across here, I sat on. I would have been on 11B. I think I was on. So I was one off from that. And I mean, you're like right next to what would have obviously been a huge gap, like a huge hole. And maybe, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, he, that's where he sat. I've got a whole lot of thoughts about that, but that's where he was sitting, 11A.
Just looking at the plane diagram, we were just before doing the podcast, we were talking about the Final Destination movies and how that can also play in when you look at the first one and you decide, and these people at the last minute, this group of kids something happens and they get off this flight and then the plane explodes and everyone else is killed except for this group of people. And then they have a look at where the people were sitting in the plane in relation to how they would have died and all of that. So it's pretty crazy. So
you can go. I'll jump in after.
So I'm just having a look here, a little bit of survivor guilt here, just from Wikipedia.
Of course.
So people who have a lasting fear or other mental health issues after traumatizing events, maybe experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was first identified in the 1960s. This whole thing of survivor guilt, where and several therapists recognized identical things with survivors of the Holocaust. These people who actually made it through the entire Holocaust of World War II, where so many millions of people died. And you can imagine why. It's like, I saw all these people dying around me, but I made it through. And And then a variant, I see it's various here. Similar signs and symptoms have been recognized in survivors of traumatic, including combat, natural disasters, terrorist attacks, air crashes, and also wide-ranging job layoffs. You can be in an industry where they are, laying off people left, right, and center from their jobs, but you end up keeping your job. And now you have to possibly deal with the animosity of people that you've worked with who are now sitting without work, and you're still in a work. When that's something I didn't think of either. So
I would imagine it won't be as extreme.
Probably not, but still.
I don't know. I would imagine it wouldn't be as extreme as what we've been talking about. But I can see why it'll cause mental harm for sure.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you would. That would it would weigh on you. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, so that would. What else? What else would they have said here? Yeah, a variant is sometimes found amongst rescue and emergency services personnel who blame themselves for maybe not being able to do enough.
That's going to be rough.
Think about 9/11, and everything that happened then, and all of those emergency personnel that couldn't do enough, or a lot of the emergency personnel who actually died when the buildings came down.
Yeah.
That's
a valid point.
Yeah. So
yeah. So going quickly back to this seat 11A, I got a whole bunch of stuff about it. I mean, into like, I just put in, I was like wondering, like, did he have a better chance than 241 other people? It's crazy, 242. So there's some thought process, but really, I mean, all of this is just like, I don't think we'll ever. I mean, he survived. So 11A, which is an exit row seat, it's like right next to an emergency exit, which is quite easy. It's easier to escape than your normal entry exit doors, because that's made for a plane that you have to get out like super quickly. It's not a door that you like have to wait to have it unlocked first and then the steps come in. This is like bam. So that could have helped. These structural integrity of that section is possibility that it might have just been a little bit stronger. A little bit. What's the word? Possibly easier to have been destroyed faster, if that makes sense. That's the thought. I have no idea. It's the thought. He also said that he reacted quite fast, and that he basically escaped through what he said was the broken door. So that was, that would have been the escape door. So it's possible that decisive action mixed in with his proximity, it definitely increased, his chance of surviving it. And then it's like random things, and I'll just read something here. Also based on the unpredictability or nature of the crash. I mean, when it happens, it happens. There's like no set thing to it, obviously.
No.
And then with the forces, they involved the trajectory of the fallen debris. His seat may have been a place which I was mentioning earlier. Of the impact point and the subsequent fire would have reduced it, maybe. And then it goes into the whole thing of luck. He was just like lucky. They the luck, and it's, reiterated the seat location, his quick reaction, and just everything being random, it resulted in his survival. And that was well, it's luck. Some people believe in luck. Some people believe in miracles. Where there's the other side that miracles don't tie in, because science is well, no, because that doesn't, because scientifically it's not possible to think it's a miracle or not. No, because a miracle is not tangible, whereas science, which again goes back to the whole thing of the earth, right at the beginning, as to science and not science, and and the miraculous birth of a child for for a mother that wasn't that hadn't had sex, but science and miracles. And I think a lot of people just can't. So that really opened up the door to a lot of questions. And we did mention it earlier about religion playing a part to it, and about about especially, we were mentioning, especially within in India, they believe in various gods, and a whole discussion with it was, as to what gods were involved if it was a miracle, was he Christian? We don't know. Was he, on that research, I have no idea. But I think just in general, if you lump it into the one thing called religion, was this actually something that was more miraculous than anything else? Was this one person? And I asked Bruce this earlier, because he was mentioning, and I'm sure you're bringing it up now, about people who have survived or who were meant to be on a certain flight that went down and they went on it. My question from that was, okay, what happened to their lives afterwards? How did they live their lives? What impact have they made from, so if this was a miraculous sort of things, the question then arrives, if you believe in God or whatever gods, is there a certain path of his life that wasn't there? It wasn't going to be part of his, there was certain reasons for this person being alive still, and what are the paths? That just opens up so many questions.
I think we hear so often, people have something like this happen to them, and maybe their lives were not on a really good, maybe they weren't walking a very good path, or they were working a really dangerous path, and something like this becomes a wake-up call for them to do a 180 in whatever in what they're doing with their lives, and they decide to turn their life around because they realize they've been given a second chance, and they don't take that lightly.
That's possible,
maybe,
but it could also be that his life was fine, that he was living
that's also true.
There were no issues. You know what I mean? So, and he was living his life normally and actually a decent person. But
correct.
But still, yes, the point goes on to as to oh crap, what's happened to my life? Wow, there's got to be something. There has to be.
Well, now it can cause even just some maybe also the person they're a good person and they've just been living a very normal life, maybe a bit of a mediocre life, just day to day, just doing their thing. And now this spurs them on to realizing wow, there must be something more. And it spurs them on to searching for that, and, spurs them on to a greater purpose, helping other people, creating something that's going to help in some ways. So many people have become really good at, counseling other people who have then become, being part of that kind of thing, or, help people who are struggling in this, and they've overcome it, and they've become a good example of that, and they can help people who are not really doing too well in that. Yeah, there's just so much, but I think it's also probably in the world of just, the world of the unexplained. It's like sometimes you just can't explain these things away.
No.
And no, it's nuts though.
I mean, in my movie mind, I would see this guy doing some kind of an impactful thing in the world. Like something.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
I mean, that's the movie world, obviously. What you're saying is still impacting other human beings. I'm just wondering, and again, though, that's Hollywood and this is real life, obviously. Whatever he does that will help other people from what he's gone through, that will make an impact on one person's life or on 100 people's life. So it doesn't have to be, that he solves one of the world's daunting problems, or it doesn't have to be that impacting. I think what you're saying is as good as, if he can use what's happened with him to be able to help other people, then that's amazing. Yeah, I think it would be a shame that if someone, and I don't think that this would happen, but if someone went through that and then just went back to life normally and didn't really do anything from it, he doesn't have to do anything with it. I mean, he's going to go. He's going to suffer through a lot of mental health issues, I'm sure, for quite a long time. It's hectic. I would imagine that he's going to be followed by TV channels who want him on, that they're wanting to do interviews and documentaries, and that could involve money. I mean, it could turn into, for example, it could turn into a place where, oh crap, I can make quite a lot of money out of this because, I'm the only survivor, and that can be pumped and used in social media it could be a huge story. I think there's a lot of avenues which it could go down. And I think what we're saying is, it'd be good if something out of this can help other people at the same time.
Like you're talking about, celebrity status of something like that. Now, if that happens, how do you use it? How do you use that force for good instead of
not get sucked into it all?
And not, then that would be the choice of the individual, because we have seen that. We're going back to the movies now, but we have seen that in movies where something happens to someone and they are like the only survivor, but they are raised to the status of a celebrity. Yeah. Where, like you were saying, everyone wants to talk to them and all that kind of thing. And I mean, I think this is, I won't say the 100%, but the high probability, if this person was American or it happens in America, for example, I feel that within a week that person would have an agent, would have a public, would have a what are they called who make books and stuff? Publicist. You'd have a publicist. Social media following, Instagram.
I think within a week. I mean, if a girl can go hack to her and
I was just thinking about that
and end up all over social media, imagine the amount of people hanging on to make a quick buck of somebody who was a lone survivor. I mean, they would just be swept up. And there's a thing where you would have to have really good, honest people around you. You would have to have, no matter what country it's from. I'm just saying, because of this social media nonsense in America, there's no ways that somebody would go through a week without being bombarded by various outlets and various people trying to make money off them, kind of thing. Which is sad, which is actually quite ugly, which is actually quite horrible. And you would hope with this person, he is British. So you would hope wherever he lives, India, Britain, wherever, you would hope that he has a strong circle of family and friends around him just to keep him safe in this initial few months, I would imagine. Because, I mean, you would have to go home and just slowly try and take in the enormity of the situation.
Yeah, that's going to be a serious process. So,
yeah. Anything else on your plate, champ, before we wrap it?
Yeah. So if you will indulge me, there are a couple of sort of prominent people that Wikipedia brought up for me with regards to decisions that they had made where they survived something. They weren't actually involved, or one or two of them I think were involved, but maybe someone makes a decision and to not do something, and it ends up, or give a seat over to someone else, and then something happens. So one of the examples was a guy by the name of Waylon Jennings. So he was a musician, and he was a guitarist in Buddy Holly's band, and he had a seat on the aircraft that would crash, killing actually Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens, all in the same plane crash. And he gave up his seat in order to travel by road instead. He traveled on the bus instead of on the plane. And what's quite sad is that Buddy Holly said to him, "Well, I hope your bus freezes up." And Jennings responded with, "Well, I hope your plane crashes." And unfortunately,
is that what supposedly he said?
That's what he said, and he said it was obviously it was a joke.
Than anything else. For sure.
It was a joke, but unfortunately, it haunted him for the rest of his life.
Wow. No,
yeah.
that would be quite impactful if he said that as a joke, but and it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch what I joke about from now onwards. That's for sure. Jeez.
That was So that was called the day the music died. That was called the day the music died.
That wasn't where the song is from, correct?
Don McLean's American Pie. Yeah. Three of probably the biggest musicians, most famous sort of artists of that time, all killed in one plane crash.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And then there was Stephen Whittle. Stephen Whittle was a fan. He was a Liverpool Football Club fan. He bought a ticket for an FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham in 1989, but he sold his ticket to a friend because he had to work. Okay, it's like, listen, I can't do this. Here's your ticket, And the friend ended up becoming one of 97 people that was killed in a human crush at the game.
Yeah. There's a lot of history to that. That's the worst thing that's ever happened in football. And there's commemoration around it.
Yeah.
Every year, especially with Liverpool or Everton / fans in general, but especially with Liverpool. Yeah.
It says Whittle became withdrawn from friends and family, unable to go to football matches due to his guilt and related feeling of responsibility for his friend's death, and he eventually committed suicide in 2011. 22 years after that. So he struggled with it for 22 years, and then eventually decided he couldn't come around from it. That's the scary thing. Yes, I'm sure survivor guilt is an incredibly natural reaction, but for someone to not be able to get past it, that's hectic.
Yeah, that's intense.
Sure. Anyway, and then I'm just going to give those two examples for now because we're pretty much done. So,
but that is I mean, like I was mentioning to you earlier, I didn't really know about this whole survivor guilt because I thought that if you survive, it's like, damn, I survived. Let me take on the rest of my life. Yeah, I've never really thought about, but it does. I mean, so for example, this last person, I mean, he just couldn't go. He couldn't go. So wasn't that? I mean, he just couldn't go to the match. So he, so he sold his ticket.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even part of anything. Like he literally, his work or whatever had to happen, he unfortunately couldn't make it. But he blames himself for sending his friend to there where he died, and that's a lot of. So whatever this gentleman from the Air India flight, whatever he goes through, the hope and prayers is that he has the right people around him. Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. There's the hope that he has a strong support system around him for what's probably going to be, I would imagine it's going to be quite difficult for a period of time.
Definitely.
Because it's huge. And that he's not taken advantage of, and that he actually used, and that he can use whatever to impact one person's life, or 10 or 100 or where else it goes to. Miracle or luck, whatever you want to see it. It's a huge story.
What is probably also going to be part of his life for a good while is a lot of questioning and cross-examination by airline authorities, because they're going to need his input into what happened and how it happened, and all that insight, because he was on that plane. So just with regards to the investigation,
that's true.
He's gonna get a lot of just scrutiny going, listen, you were the survivor. What the hell? What all can you tell us? What can you remember? All of that kind of thing. And you might find that with counseling, he might remember even more and more as the months go on.
But then you have
as
to
he sort of processes everything. Yeah. It's gonna be a big part of his life for a while.
The difficulty is that it's going to get brought up over quite a period of time, that that to actually try and deal with it and just let it breathe for a while, it's just getting continuously brought up. That's a good point.
Yeah. Because they really don't know what caused it. I mean, the thing just lifts into the air, and then it just almost like it hangs there. It's just moving at one. It's not getting higher and higher, and then suddenly it just loses it.
Almost as if you're like going up a hill in a car that's, for some reason, the engine is just like, screw it. I just
been there, done that.
Can't that's happened anymore. Yeah, and it's like literally to the point. Yeah, and on a non-humorous way, that probably would have. That's the kind of thing which would have happened with the plane, kind of thing. You would think so.
Yeah. Well, Well, that was an interesting little discussion. It went to a couple of places that we didn't think it would go, so that was cool, though.
Know where it's going to go.
That's it. Well, this has been the Spaghetti Junction podcast.
Before you finish,
sorry.
As you finish off there, I'm going to play. It's the video that somebody took of the character of Vinesh coming out where the explosion is, and then this person, which is him, walking out, just like he's walked out of a house, kind of thing. The front, it does say right at the beginning, warning contains scenes some viewers may find distressing. For what I could see, there's no blood, gore, nothing. I just think that it has to get put up there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I just thought just as a final thing to it, we'll sign off and then we'll play that final video. Because just seeing and knowing who he is and seeing him just walking out, it's just it's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now this has been this has been the Spaghetti Junction podcast. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, engage with us in the comments. We've had some good engagement on our last couple of videos, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
We shall indeed. goodbye. If I press the play button, then we'll say goodbye. This is sorry. Now my system's gone funny, so you've got to look at me like I know what I'm doing, because I don't really. Here we go.
There we go.
Just walks out.
Aduh, bisa dah.